Guys, Dendrite here, and today we will be going over website cloning with a tool called httrack. Now, there are lots of reasons you might want to clone a particular site. If you are a penetration tester or bug bounty hunter, cloning a website allows you to analyze a website structure by pulling the entire site, relevant files, relevant directories. You get to pull all of that locally, so you can analyze that offline and get a sense of the website architecture without having to hammer that website with requests. Looking at the not so legitimate uses for this tool can definitely be used by threat actors and black hat hackers to clone a website and then put that cloned website up on a new domain on a new server for phishing or social engineering attempts. As always, do not target websites that you do not have authorization to test. Like, comment, subscribe if you want more videos like this, and without further ado, let's get right to it. Copying a website locally with httrack. The goal is simple. We want to pull a site onto disk. We want to work on it offline. We want to sift through it locally. And we want to do all this without touching a live server. That matters because structure leaks information, comments leak information. We might find hidden files, forgotten endpoints, JavaScript artifacts, and all of that shows up when you flatten a site and clone it to disk. This tool has two modes. We have a graphical user interface and a command line version. The GUI runs both on Windows and Linux, but the command line version is what we'll be using here because it's faster. You can build bash scripts off it, and it's a lot less friction. On Kali Linux, the installation is pretty straightforward. Update your system first and then run sudo apt-get install httrack. If it's already installed, the system will confirm that immediately. There's also a web interface variant, often packaged as web httrack. It's not always present in repositories, but the command line tool is usually there by default, or it's easily installed. The idea is simple. You give it a URL and then it mirrors the site. Start simple, make a folder to store output. I'll run the mkdir command to make an output folder, and then I run the tool name httrack followed by the target. For this one, we are using zonetransfer.me, and we'll direct the output into the folder I just created. After execution, it pulls down assets, favcon files, index.html, supporting resources, pretty much everything it can grab from the site, it's going to grab. The local copy behaves differently because absolute paths and server logic don't translate cleanly when you take a site offline. And don't worry, that's completely normal. I'll switch over to another target now. This is a better target with real site structure, and that's digi.ninja. I'll create an output directory for that, mirror the site again, and then let it run. Depending on the size, it'll pull HTML, scripts, style sheets, images, and whatever other downloadable assets it can find. The folder structure mirrors the live site exactly, so blog directories, contact pages, script directories, style sheets, image folders, archive files, PDFs. This is the real value here. You're not just downloading pages, you're reconstructing architecture. CSS and styling assets show layout systems. JavaScript shows client-side logic, HTML shows routing and endpoint patterns. At this point, the site is no longer a website, it's just a file tree. You can inspect comments directly, look for debug strings, look for leftover development notes, look for misconfigured references. Something to also mention is that httrack also supports recursion depth, and this controls how far it follows links. Shallow depth pulls only top-level pages, but deep recursion walks the entire site tree, so it will target subdirectories, nested paths, everything reachable from the root. The wizard mode wraps this process in prompts. You enter a project name, you select a base path, provide one or more URLs, choose mirror options, choose a recursion level, choose your filters. Then it generates the equivalent command line invocation. Execution begins and continues until completion or until we interrupt it. Now, on larger sites, this can take several minutes or perhaps even longer. The tool is essentially crawling every readable link and saving the responses. The output shows directory expansion over time, growth in file count, growth in size, eventually becomes tens of megabytes or more depending on the target you decide to go after. At this point, stopping early is enough for analysis, so we're going to leave it here. Full capture may not always be necessary. Once the site is mirrored, you can analyze it offline, you can map directories, identify patterns, look for upload endpoints, look for hidden administrative paths, look for JavaScript libraries that can be audited separately. Even something as simple as a blog folder tells you routing structure, it tells you how the content is segmented, and that segmentation often reflects backend logic. This is why site mirroring matters, because it converts a live system into something you can use for static intelligence gathering. One caution, this technique is passive in most contexts, but it becomes active when used for replication, scraping at scale, or unauthorized duplication of a site. The mechanics will stay the same, but the intent changes the classification. HTTrack supports wildcards as well. You can restrict downloads by extension. For example, only zip files, only PDFs, only JavaScript files, and that narrows the scope and isolates high-value assets. You can even target multiple sites in one run, which is useful for comparing structure across domains. Once collection is complete, you can shut it down and work locally. That's the end state, a fully offline snapshot of a website ready for inspection, enumeration, and pattern discovery. That is it for the video, everyone. Hope you found it informative, hope you learned something from it. As always, if you would like me to cover a particular topic or a particular tool, leave that in the comments below and I will get that happening. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.